Today we're going to look back at the most impactful, memorable weightlifting battle of the last quad. The battle that shook the weightlifting world to the very core. And we're finally going to answer the question, what on earth was Rahmat actually thinking when he was sat there on the platform?
Welcome back to the 2024 IWF World Cup. This is the highly anticipated men's 73 kilo category. It's an Olympic category. It is the last chance qualifier for the Paris Olympics.
Two weightlifters, both Indonesian, both top 2 in the world, but with only one ticket to the Olympic Games. This was the biggest moment in both of their lives. Let's get into it.
Oh my goodness,
Lord.
He's going to make it. The two-time Olympic champion, Juniansyah. It's not over.
The jerk. He's got to fight though. Yeah, he's done it.
Unbelievable. He's got a minute and a half. What's he doing?
Oh, it's a tough clean. He's on his toes. It's slipping. It's falling.
Okay, so it's been nearly 18 months since what was basically the most unforgettable moment in weightlifting for me in my life. It was this incredible end to an 18-month run of complete dominance by Rahmat and Abdullah. Okay, so essentially you've got these two young lads from Indonesia. You've got Rizki Juniansyah and you've got Rahmat and Abdullah. They have been competing against one another since they were kids. I mean, since they were literally, young teenagers. But there's a 2-year age gap. So over the last few years, while Rizki was winning junior world championships titles, Rahmat was winning senior world championship titles. But I think the first time we kind of saw them against each other, really going head to head, was the 2022 World Championships in Colombia. Rahmat, who was actually competing in the B session, the reigning world champion, he set this new world record, 200 kilos, it beat Juniansyah, and it was just like, okay, this isn't a guy who just happened to win once. He's here to stay.
Can he hold it? Can he hold it?
He's the best clean and jerk we've seen in this category ever. And then Rizki came out and competed in the A session, and he put on an amazing display, and he went for the gold. He didn't quite make it, but there was definitely this setting of the scene that we were going to see something pretty remarkable over the coming years. But when we got to Saudi Arabia 2023 for the World Championships, that's when things got particularly interesting. Rahmat turned up and he looked formidable. He was in incredible shape. He hit that 195 clean front squat jerk in the training hall. And then he competed as a light 81. He set that world record at 209 kilos. He was ridiculous. Bear in mind, he beat Liu Xiaojun and Carlos Cesar's world record, and he weighed less than them because he was a 73 who just basically didn't bother cutting.
Very smooth pull knees under. And can this man hold it? Yes, he can. The greatest clean and jerker in the world right now, Rahmat Abdullah, 209 kilos, removing Carlos Cesar from the record books, setting another world record. He now owns them in the 73 kilo category with 200, and in the 81 kilo category now with 209 kilos.
Whereas Rizki, he was set to be there, but he ended up sitting out of that competition. He had appendix surgery, lying in bed in hospital watching Rahmat set that world record. And then what lay ahead of him was basically 4 months in bed, unable to train, unable to do any kind of physical movement. And at the end of that 4 months, he had 6 weeks to build up for the Asian Championships. And that's where the two of them kind of faced each other once again. It's also worth just mentioning that at that Saudi Arabian World Championships, we saw the return of the king, the 2-time Olympic champion, Juniansyah from China. He hadn't competed since he won in Tokyo, so it'd been a couple of years. He still had, a few injuries here and there, but he was definitely sort of letting us know, he was letting those two know in particular, when I go for it, when I decide to properly come back and compete, you're gonna need to watch out because I can still do things. There's still some strength in this old guy. I guess the Asian Championships 2024, that was the first time there was any kind of flicker that it might not be Rahmat who ends up going to the Olympic Games. But it was only small. I mean, Rizki had had 6 weeks training, which wasn't long. But I remember distinctly, I was in the athlete hotel, I was in the sauna, and Rizki walked in. And so we were in there and we were just chatting, and I said, how's surgery been? How's your recovery been? And he said, good. He said, I've been training for 6 weeks. I'm going to lift well here. Then I'm going to go to the World Cup. I'm going to win, and then I'll become Olympic champion. And I just thought, like, I love the passion. I love the excitement. I love the fact that you're believing in yourself. But realistically, Rahmat was having one of the most impressive runs we've ever seen in weightlifting history. I mean, he was just pushing the world records. It just wasn't going to happen. But then when we went to competition, Rizki ended up snatching 158 kilos. You know, for him to do that after 6 weeks of training just baffled the mind. Rahmat came out here another kilo and he moved ahead. And then in the clean and jerk, Rizki hit the 195, he was screaming, he started crying in the back room just because he knew. This kind of symbolizes the fact that I'm within 3 kilos of the old world record, I'm within 5 kilos of Rahmat's world record. This is unbelievable. Give me another 6 weeks of training before the World Cup, the last chance Olympic qualifier, and I can do this. So just as he gave us that flicker of the doubt, we started believing, could he do this in Thailand? Rahmat comes out and he does one of the most dominant things any weightlifter's ever done. He beats his own world record on his second attempt with 202, a 2 kilo world record, and then goes again up to 204 kilos. So at that point, he's already extended the world record on his own single-handedly by 6 kilos over the last, 13 months. Yeah, I mean, this definitely did feel like it was the climax to an incredible story. And as we've learned actually with the coming World Championships, the story continues. But at that point, I mean, it was literally the last chance qualifier. I mean, this was it. What they were building up to was to find out who was going to go to the Olympic Games. You know, there's 2 of them, they're the 2 best in the world. There's only 1 ticket for the Olympic Games because only 1 athlete per nation, per category can go to the Olympics. So it was kind of like obvious that whoever ends up winning is going to then go on and become the Olympic Games champion, the champion of the Olympics. The whole weightlifting world is ready for it. When we actually arrived in Thailand, there was this one training session, one of the most historic things I've ever seen. The 2 of them were in the training hall, and bear in mind, technically they're the same team, but they're not friends. Neither of them would consider the other a friend. They're rivals. But they were put side by side on 2 platforms. Rather than facing the same direction, they were back to back. And they were so deliberate in not turning around to look at one another. They didn't want to know what the other was doing, and they didn't want to let the other person know that they were at all interested. At that point, it was such a mental game. And what unfolded was one of the most impressive training sessions we've ever seen. Rizki Juniansyah snatched 160 kilos in the training hall. And that is more than, well, that basically equals the heaviest snatch we've ever seen from a 73 in a training hall. It equals what we've seen from Juniansyah. That's a weight that at that point Rahmat had never even snatched in competition. So that was a statement. While that was happening, Rahmat was building up to the most historic clean and jerk we've seen from anyone in that category. He did this 180 power clean plus clean and jerk, which is ridiculous, 190, and then he loaded the 200 kilos. But that 200 kilos was such a statement. It was a weight that no other 73 had ever hit. And so to hit that, 7-8 days out was incredible. And then I think Rizki made potentially a bit of an error, because he then decided, I'm going to clean and jerk too. And if I can hit the 200, I have just ruined that advantage, that mental advantage that Rahmat just gained on me, because he will then be freaking out that I've just done these 2 massive lifts in training. And he built up and he hit 195. He went for 200 and he missed it. And I think in that moment, any advantage that maybe we felt like he had, he just completely lost. Rizki made that mistake and Rahmat once again capitalized. He'd already hit the 200. Then he came in the next day or 2 days later to snatch. We've never seen him go over 150, maybe even 140 in training. He went up to 160. This is more than we'd ever seen him make in any period, training, back room, competition. We've never seen him do this. He drops a bar, he reaches down to grab the bar to go again. He's basically saying, I'm going to double this. And he knows that we as media are all filming this. We're going to post this, therefore Rizki's going to see it. Rizki's going to see that Rahmat tried to double the weight that he just hit to try and show his dominance. And obviously Rahmat's father, his coach, runs in, says no. And Rahmat laughs and says, okay, if you don't want me to double it, I won't double it. Then he sits down, comes back a few minutes later and hits it for a second single. That means that in the training hall, despite Rizki showing that he was in unprecedented shape, Rahmat was just in a world of his own. He was just floating above everybody else with what he was able to do. This 2 singles at 160, the 200 kilo clean and jerk was dominance basically unlike anything we'd seen, basically since the likes of Lash Talakadze. Carlos Nassar hadn't quite hit that level yet, so he was the most dominant weightlifter in the world. Yeah, the day of the competition, this often happens with these big sessions, especially when there's a decent sized crowd, it's humming. You can just feel the energy. There's chattering, there's nervousness, there's excitement, and you can genuinely feel that. And I remember, obviously, we've got a lot of responsibility. We're broadcasting this, so we have the commentary table. I've got my whole team. I'm making sure that we've got cameras in the back room. I go into the back room, I tell them you need to stand here. We're filming these people. We're at the front. I'm making sure they've got the shot. I'm making sure the headsets are working. So I'm sort of getting a little bit nervous, thinking this is the most important session of maybe the entire Olympic quad. We've got to cover this. We've got to get this right. And then I think what made it more exciting was that when I went into the back room to just see where the athletes were, Rahmat and Rizki had once again been placed side by side. And on top of that, Juniansyah was opposite them. So we had the 2 Indonesians who were battling out for the last chance qualifier to go to the Olympic Games, side by side, basically unable to escape the tension, unable to escape the magnitude of the event. There was no space to get away from one another. Whoever would win this would clearly then go to the Olympics and win. So the 2 best in the world in this category. They'll then get a gold medal, they'll get fame within Indonesia, they'll get fortune. So the stakes for these guys to change their lives and the lives of the family was ridiculous.
This is the highly anticipated men's 73 kilo category. It's an Olympic category. It is the last chance qualifier for the Paris Olympics.
So in the snatches, they both opened up at 155 kilos, which is pretty heavy for them. Rizki, his best at that point was 158. I think Rahmat's was 159. So 155 kind of showed, okay, they're ready to do something big. And Rahmat wasn't doing what he normally does, which is open light and take bigger jumps. He knew, I can't risk not making my third attempts. I need to open heavy. I need to make all my lifts.
There we go.
There it is. Easy.
Just like that.
So strong. Easy lift.
But the thing that really happened in that snatch portion that was the most sort of electrifying thing was when we all realized that Rizki was jumping from 155 all the way to 164 kilos.
Rizki's put 164.
That's got to be a placeholder is my guess. That's a 9 kilo jump.
A 9 kilo jump in weightlifting is completely ridiculous, particularly at that kind of weight category.
Oh, and he's had to work to save it.
Right to it, and he sank down 3 extra inches to stabilize. That was a save. That is incredible.
So where Rahmat had made the 155, he then hit 160, personal best, looked a bit, tough, but he made it. He missed 162.
And he's missed.
Yeah, that wasn't there.
Okay, that's interesting.
It leaves him open. Rizki is taking the 9 kilo jump. That's a massive jump.
The fact that Rizki was saying, I'm gonna go for 164 here, and I got 2 attempts at it. And if I make this weight, I've got 4 kilos on you. You're gonna need 5 kilos more than whatever I clean and jerk. It was exciting because suddenly it was like, okay, Rizki is actually taking the battle to Rahmat. He is saying to him, I'm going for this. You are not gonna get away with this. If I make this, you are potentially screwed. Like, I'm gonna put you in a position where you once again are gonna have to do something you have never done before. And when he took that first attempt at the 164, he missed it. But I remembered on the commentary, I said something like, oh, he can make that. Like, there was just this obvious sense in the speed that he pulled it, his aggression, his intention to make it, the way that he missed it, the bar was there, it was right there, it was possible for him. That's when it all started kicking off. Then he came back out and he made it.
Oh my goodness,
Lord.
He's gonna make it.
He's gotta hold it.
And he stood it up and he looked around, whilst he's holding the weight above his head, almost like, have I just done this? Am I just writing the greatest comeback story in the history of weightlifting? I was out of action in a hospital for months, and now here I am, and I'm about to do something that no one could have ever predicted. He was 4 kilos ahead of Rahmat at that point.
That is simply staggering. He's got a 4 kilo lead.
I mean, this is getting incredibly interesting right now.
And so we're just working it out like, okay, that means that Rahmat's gonna need another 5 kilos. If Rizki hits this and the clean and jerk, Rahmat's gonna need that. But before we could even get into that, obviously, King Shi Jiong, China's 2-time Olympic champ, turns up. We're well aware that he's not going to be able to battle it out really in the total. He's not got the strength in the clean and jerk yet, but he's the snatch king.
Shi Jiong now 165.
Shi Jiong does not like to lose in the snatch.
No.
Has he ever lost in the snatch? No.
One of those athletes that just has an ample supply of power.
The last time we saw the blues on the bar for a snatch was when he snatched 166 kilos at the Olympic Games.
And he came out and he hit that 165.
He crushes it.
2-time Olympic champion.
Fair play to you. You're outside of this battle. You're kind of the old king of this category.
It's not over.
Never count him
Not
out.
over.
But once again, you've walked away with a gold medal in that lift, and it was that was very special actually for a lot of weightlifting fans, myself included, to see him do that. That was that was cool. It's interesting, in a competition you have the wall between where everybody is, all the fans and the competition, and then the back room where the athletes are waiting. and it was totally different. Out front, it was excited. There was a lot of, again, humming energy. People were happy, people were shocked. In the back room, the mood shifted. It went quiet, it went serious. Both of them were just, lying down on their platforms, trying to refocus, resensitize to what was about to happen. They were trying to readjust because I guess that, particularly Rahmat, his expectations of how this was going to go as the most dominant weightlifter in the world were being shattered. He had to readjust. Rizki probably had to calm himself down. I have no idea how they mentally handled all of that going through their heads. But you've got to remember, we still didn't really believe it would happen. Rizki's best clean and jerk to date was 195. Rahmat had done 204, and it didn't feel like it was a true max. So it was only that we were beginning to think, gosh, this could happen, and we were excited. All three of them had hit new personal records. So that was cool, but I think it was Rahmat who started recognizing that this had the potential to be the worst day of his life, possibly. I think one of the ways I like to think of it is that Rahmat had been in control of this category for basically 18 months, and really for longer, 2.5 years actually. And for the first time, it almost felt like he wasn't in control. He was being hunted by Rizki. No one had been able to apply that type of pressure on him before. As a guy who liked to compete in B sessions, hit big totals, and not have to even battle anyone out, just put down the world record and leave and walk over the gold, I don't think he was used to that. And I think he felt some extreme pressure in that situation. So obviously the first attempt from the three of them, because we've got to talk about Shizhiong. Shizhiong hit the 191, and it was exciting. We hadn't seen him even clean anything over maybe 180 kilos in about 3 years. And he's a squat jerk, which makes things just visually more compelling. It's electric. There's more of a sense of, this could go wrong.
Stabilizes it, he's done it.
Unbelievable.
This is the Juniansyah.
We still have to date one of my favorite shots ever, where Nate had come round from the back room and was on the side of the platform filming, and Shizhiong hits the lift and he falls to the ground and he turns and Nate's there, and he just happens to, for a split second, he locks eyes on the camera. It almost looks like he's crying. I think there are tears in his eyes. Obviously he's in agony at this point. You've seen him in the back room just screaming, basically in pain because of how bad his back feels. And that to me was an amazing moment to capture. But we also knew, you're not going to lift anymore, you might clean more. But basically that was done. That was him putting up a total that would put pressure on the Chinese coaching staff to select him for the Olympic Games. Liu Hanhua was going to go, Li Fabin was going to go, and it was basically between him and then either Li Dayin or Tian Tao in the 89s. That was his shot at the third Olympic Games to go to. So seeing him make the 191 was very cool. The opening attempts of the other two though, Rizki came out, 192, massive.
He's up quickly with that.
Smashed it. Rahmat came out, 195. Smashed it. But where it really changed, I guess, was when Rizki decided to go for 201 kilos. Ultimately, that's the most impactful lift in this whole competition. The 164 snatch, that was brave, but it was the 201 kilo clean and jerk that was actually This is the pivotal moment of the whole thing. This is the bravest lift. The 192 wasn't going to be enough. If you make the 201, you're going to force Rahmat to make 206, which is a weight that he has never made at this body weight. You're going to force him to do something no other 73 has ever done.
It's a heavy clean, but
He's got up with it.
He's making the jerk. He's got to fight though.
Word, Rizki Juniansyah, if he can stand still.
But the 201, it was just, I can't tell you, in the room, in the building, how exciting that was.
He's
Has
just done it.
set the world record and become the world #1 ahead of Rahmat Abdullah.
It was like, the whole roof just lifted. Everybody went absolutely insane. He went insane.
I cannot believe what I've just seen.
And I think the juxtaposition between how he was right there and then in the back room, Rahmat, not watching the board, not watching the video feed coming through, but just sitting there, I'm gonna hit what I have to hit, whether or not he makes this. The 201, most pivotal moment by far of the entire competition. Maybe the most important lift of the entire sport for the 3 years, basically, between the last Olympics and then this final Olympic qualifier.
Today is the day we find out what Rahmat can actually clean and jerk.
So you've got to remember that before Rahmat turned up in the sport, the world record was 198 kilos. He had single-handedly gone to 200, then 202 kilos, then 204 kilos. He'd even competed as an 81 and done 209. So to some degree, it felt like his entire career had been building to this moment. He'd made these stepping stones. He'd shown that he was physically capable of it. In hindsight, we know what happened, but at the time, we'd just seen Rizki do this ridiculous thing. And then it felt like the storyline is going to be the fact that Rahmat is now about to establish him as like the absolute GOAT, the greatest. And I think that was my mindset back then. It's very hard to put yourself back in that situation, but I think we still all had this belief that, yeah, he's got 2 attempts at this, and he's going to make it. This is the first time since Colombia 2022 where Rahmat didn't have that Olympic ticket. He basically was given it, you're going to go to the Olympics, become champion. This was the first time anyone had moved ahead of him in his total. Rizki did it. That 201, by the way, gave him a new world record in the total. So Rizki's performance was the greatest total of all time. So he'd basically said to Rahmat, you have to do something that nobody else has ever done. And it was the first time that Rahmat lost that ticket and he had to fight for it. And I think that pressure was pretty tough for him.
Oh, he's up with the clean. Right into the jerk.
He can't make it.
It's forward.
He's missed
forward.
it. He's got 2 minutes.
The pull was great, the stand was great, and he did his classic thing, go straight into the jerk. And he just left it out front. But it was doable. I think we all knew it was doable. We were shocked, we couldn't believe. We haven't seen him miss a clean and jerk in a long time. So I think where Rizki's 201 was the greatest lift, this third attempt at 206 is the most memorable moment in weightlifting since Lasher snatched 225 kilos in 2021. It's become so iconic. That image of him standing there with the bar on his shoulders after he's clean it is one of the most haunting images in weightlifting history, and it's just imprinted on my mind seeing him standing there. So the way it happened was he had this 2-minute rest, and he went and he sat on the side of the platform. But then he stood up after 30 seconds. And actually, for the longest period of time, no one has known why he stood up in 30 seconds or what he was actually thinking when he sat there. And we always had these different ideas, and one of them was that he was thinking, no, what am I doing? I need to go and make this. I'm Rahmat. I'm not the guy who's going to sit here and take the time. I'm going to go and win this. I'm going to get the ticket. I'm going to the Olympics. I'm going to win. But we actually spoke to him a couple of days ago, because I always knew that he needed time before he could answer this question, and it's been 18 months. So we asked him, we said, what were you thinking when you were sat there in between these 2 attempts, one final chance? And he said, I realized I was in trouble. And that's something that he'd never felt before. He was just always dominant. He was always setting world records. He knew he was in trouble for the first time. I think he basically cracked. And I think in that moment, he couldn't, that pressure to sit there for 2 minutes with all the eyes of the weightlifting world on him, was was too much, and he just stood up and he went back to the bar.
He's standing right up.
He's standing up. What is he doing?
2:06. He's not even wasting
What's he
any
doing?
time.
Indonesia, 200.
He's got a minute and a half. What's he doing?
And I remember, as the commentator, basically breaking character to some degree. So I remember yelling at him, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you getting up to lift this now?"
He takes no time to come back.
This has never happened.
This is extraordinary.
This for the Olympics.
And then he walks straight up to the bar and he cleans it.
Oh, it's a tough clean. He's on his toes.
And it's the worst clean we've ever seen. And so there he is, that iconic position. He's standing there.
It's slipping. It's falling. Can he stabilize?
At that point, we all know that he's not going to make the jerk because he's a clean jerker. He's not a clean end jerker. As soon as he stands up, he does the lift. He stood there and he paused. And we know this is it. You've lost it. And he kind of knows that at that point. He can't make this jerk. Until he drops it, he hasn't technically lost. It's not a reality, the fact that he's not going to the Olympics until he drops the bar. And he just stands there. 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 7 seconds. And then it's like suddenly he realizes he's got to do something about it. He attempts a jerk, drops it, and he collapses to the floor. And he's lying there.
Oh, that was painful to watch.
It's the biggest upset in weightlifting history.
And that was the most exposing moment. It felt awful to me. It was haunting, actually. I hated it. It was this feeling of like, everybody is watching this man. And bear in mind, he was 23 at the time. Everybody is watching him, dealing with the worst moment of his life. And he's just fallen to the ground and he's collapsed. And yeah, it was a pretty bad moment in many ways, seeing that happen like right in front of you. You're processing two things. I was thrilled for Rizki. I felt really happy for him. You know, I'd just witnessed one of the greatest comebacks of all time. You know, in many ways, if Rahmat wasn't who Rahmat was, the only emotion would have been like, wow, we've just seen the greatest comeback. You know, the two-time junior world champ, he gets appendicitis, he's out. He comes back, he trains for a few weeks, he sets an all-time world record, he goes to the Olympics. And yet, because of who Rahmat was and what he'd done, I remember just I felt sick, sorrow, disbelief. It was like all the stages of, you know, when you're dealing with a tragedy, basically, like denial. It was all of these things coming through. And then obviously the emotion in the back room. That was one of the toughest things. Rahmat was just numb. I remember he got pulled off stage by his father. And then he basically just like slumped to the ground and he was just in the back room lying there. He was just completely numb. He was going to go and become Olympic champion and then this had happened and he'd lost it. He should never have lost it. And he just lay there, couldn't take anything in. Meanwhile, Rizki is a few meters away and he's just crying, he's literally wailing. The juxtaposition of those two young Indonesian men who've battled it out since they were 13 years old in the back room, one is literally in heaven, one is like literally in hell, was just, it's the most iconic, I mean it is, isn't it? It's the most iconic moment in weightlifting for quite a few years. So. And actually, despite all that we've done at Weightlifting House, I mean, we've got all the products, all the interviews, all the videos, the live broadcasting. Being able to commentate that session is probably the best thing I've done because that is truly historic. That session won't be forgotten. And so to have been fortunate enough to be a part of that, to be the voice that sort of guided everyone through the story, absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, thrilled. It shows how powerful sport can be. It's not about the numbers. These didn't have to be world records, it's just the icing on the cake that it was. It was the fact that it was this incredible story of two athletes, same country, one ticket. And I think what we've realised is that the story's not over. That's the most exciting thing. It's going to carry on. So, yeah, Norway 2025. It's a rematch.